welcome to today's deep dive. So what if I told you that blocking out, 3 hours this Sunday to finally study that new language is actually the fastest way to guarantee you'll forget everything you learn?
It sounds completely backwards, doesn't it? I mean, we're so conditioned to believe that big goals require these massive, grueling efforts.
Right, totally.
But the biology of how we actually acquire new skills, it tells a completely different story.
And that's exactly the core of what we're looking at today. We're diving into a source document called the English Boost Podcast Study Guide.
Yeah, and on the surface, it looks like a guide designed just for language learners.
Exactly. But when you look under the hood, it's actually this incredible masterclass in behavioral psychology and neuroscience. Our mission today is to unpack why those marathon study sessions we all guilt ourselves into are neurologically flawed.
Flawed and exhausting.
Oh, completely. And we'll discover how replacing them with just a simple 15-minute daily routine is the ultimate secret weapon for learning. Whether you're trying to learn a language, pick up a new skill, or you're just feeling totally overwhelmed by your goals, that feeling of not having enough time is just a universal barrier for all of us.
It really is. It's such a common struggle. And what we're focusing on today is replacing all that guilt of not studying enough with the actual science of microhabits.
Right.
And to do that, we'll be using 5 specific English vocabulary expressions from the study guide to sort of illustrate these points.
Okay, let's unpack this. We have to start by dismantling that traditional approach most of us just intuitively rely on. You know the one.
The dreaded 3-hour weekend cram session.
Yes. You buy the course, you tell yourself you're too busy during the work week, so you're going to sit down on Sunday afternoon and cram for 3 solid hours.
Mm-hmm.
Why do we treat learning like cramming for a college final instead of like brushing our teeth?
Well, it comes down to a very common misconception. We have to separate executing a known skill from acquiring an entirely new neurological framework.
Okay, wait, what does that mean exactly?
So deep focus is fantastic if you're writing code you already know or drafting a report based on your expertise. But when you're learning something totally new, you are forcing your brain to wire new synaptic connections from scratch.
And that takes energy.
A massive amount. Your brain is only about 2% of your body weight, but it consumes 20% of your energy.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and wiring those new pathways demands an enormous amount of glucose.
So you're literally draining the battery.
Rapidly. When you try to force complex new rules into your brain for 3 hours straight, the system just gets flooded. You deplete that glucose. And when you run out of fuel, your brain's threat detection center starts to register this activity as a severe stressor.
A stressor, like your brain thinks it's in danger.
Exactly. You don't just get tired, you hit a state where you completely burn out. And actually, that brings us to the first vocabulary term from the guide: burnout.
Oh, right. Because we aren't just throwing around a casual phrase for needing a nap here.
No, not at all. Burnout is a phrasal verb meaning to become extremely tired or sick from working too hard. In this context, studying for 4 hours straight without a break guarantees you will burn out and lose motivation.
Have you retained barely anything?
Right. You're training your nervous system to view the learning material as a threat to your energy reserves.
That explains so much. You push through that Sunday session, you feel accomplished for a minute, but by Monday, just looking at the textbook makes you feel exhausted.
Because your brain is saying, nope, don't touch that. Last time we did that, we almost ran out of fuel.
Okay, so if the marathon session triggers a biological threat response, what's the alternative? The source leans heavily into this idea of the 15-minute rule. Doing something small every single day.
Yes, the 15-minute rule.
But I got to push back a little. How can 15 minutes possibly be enough time to learn a language? It sounds like a gimmicky infomercial.
I know. It sounds too good to be true. But it's grounded in a neurological mechanism called spaced repetition. When you shrink your study material down, you avoid overwhelming your working memory.
Which brings us directly to the second vocabulary term from the guide: bite-sized chunks.
Ah, yes, a perfect term for this.
Right. Bite-sized chunks is an idiom that means small, manageable parts of a larger task that are easy to process. So instead of memorizing a whole dictionary, you break the learning down into these bite-sized chunks, like just listening to a 5-minute podcast or reading 2 pages of a book.
Exactly. And what's fascinating here is that everyone, literally everyone, has at least 15 minutes of dead time in their day. So it completely debunks that not enough time excuse.
Okay, so I do my bite-sized chunks. I don't exhaust myself. But how does that actually turn into long-term memory?
It happens when you sleep.
Wait, really? While I'm sleeping?
Yeah. During deep sleep, your hippocampus takes those bite-sized chunks of information you learned that day and literally replays them to your neocortex, sometimes at 20 times the speed of waking life.
That is wild.
Right. This is how short-term exposure becomes long-term memory. And the crucial part is, your brain prioritizes what to keep based on frequency, not intensity.
Oh, so if I study for 3 hours on Sunday, my brain gets one massive chaotic signal, dumps most of it, and gets 0 signals for the next 6 days.
Yep, the pathway degrades. But if you give it bite-sized chunks every single day, the frequency tells your nervous system, hey, this is constantly recurring, it must be vital for our survival.
So doing it daily creates neural pathways way faster.
Exactly, it's myelination. The brain wraps the pathway in a fatty layer called myelin, making the signal faster and more efficient.
Okay, the biology makes complete sense. But here's where it gets really interesting, behaviorally speaking. It's one thing to know 15 minutes is better, but finding the willpower to actually sit down after a long day at work, that 15-minute task still feels like a mountain.
Because of decision fatigue. Every choice you make drains your cognitive energy. By 6 p.m., your willpower is gone. If you rely on willpower to study, you'll fail.
Which is why the guide introduces habit stacking. This is so smart. It's linking your learning with existing daily habits.
Yes, you just hijack an existing neural pathway.
The examples they give are super relatable, like listening to an English audio lesson while doing the dishes, or reviewing flashcards while waiting for your coffee to brew, even just speaking to yourself out loud while driving.
It's brilliant because it removes the friction of starting. You don't have to debate if or when you're going to study. The coffee maker is the trigger.
So you're basically tricking yourself into consistency.
You are. And that consistency is what allows you to really push through the hard days. Which brings us to the third vocabulary term, keep at it.
Keep at it.
Yeah. Keep at it is a phrasal verb meaning to continue doing something even if it is difficult. To persist. The source's golden rule is that learning is a marathon, not a sprint. Snacking habits ensures you keep at it every single day without needing to feel motivated.
Because I don't need motivation to make my morning coffee. I just do it. Okay, I'm with you on the perfect scenario. We're doing 15-minute chunks, we're habit stacking. But let's get real for a second. What does this all mean for the perfectionist listener who thinks missing one day ruins their entire progress? Like you get the flu or the coffee maker breaks and you miss a day.
That's the what the hell effect. You miss day 11 of a streak, you think what the hell it's ruined, and you abandon the whole project.
But neurologically, missing one day doesn't erase those pathways, right?
Not at all. The physical architecture in your brain is totally intact. The damage is purely psychological. And that's why the guide is so reassuring about this. Missing one day is completely fine. Which introduces our fourth vocabulary term, slip up.
Slip up.
Yes. The slip up means to make a small mistake or miss a day of practice. And the context they give is, if you slip up and forget to study on Tuesday, don't panic. Just get back on track on Wednesday.
So you just forgive the failure immediately.
Immediately. Because if you view a slip up as proof that you're incapable, you trigger that same threat response we talked about earlier. You avoid the task to avoid feeling like a failure.
Wow. Okay, but to balance that forgiveness, the guide highlights this ultimate golden rule. Never miss twice.
Yes, the never miss twice rule is crucial.
Why is the second day so important? If I forgive myself for Tuesday, why is Wednesday non-negotiable?
Because your brain is a pattern recognition machine. Missing one day is an anomaly, but missing 2 days in a row, you're giving your brain a new repeating signal. You are actively starting to build a new habit of avoidance.
Oh, man. So missing twice isn't a break. It's the start of a competing neural pathway.
Exactly. When you enforce the never miss twice rule, you protect the primary habit. And once you do that, you reach the final stage. You start to build momentum.
Which is our final vocabulary term, build momentum.
That's right. Build momentum is a collocation, meaning gaining speed, power, or force of progress over time.
And it's not just a metaphor, right? Like this is physically happening in the brain.
It absolutely is. Think of pushing a broken down car. Those first few pushes are agonizing. You're using maximum effort for almost zero movement. That's your brain burning glucose to build the new pathway.
But once the car is rolling at a decent speed,
you can keep it moving with just one hand. That's biological momentum. The pathway is heavily myelinated. You no longer have to burn precious energy to decide to study. It just feels automatic.
It's the point where not doing your flashcards with your coffee actually feels weirder than doing them.
Exactly. Once you forgive a slip-up and complete your first week or two, you build momentum, and the entire process gets exponentially easier.
That is just such a cohesive, forgiving system. We're ditching the burnout of 3-hour crams. We're embracing 15-minute bite-sized chunks. We're habit stacking to make sure we keep at it. And we're forgiving our slip-ups so we can actually build momentum.
And remember, this framework applies to absolutely any skill you are trying to master right now. The neuroscience is exactly the same.
So, keeping all that in mind, I want to issue a direct challenge to you listening right now. Look at your actual messy schedule for tomorrow. What is your 15-minute habit going to be? Don't be vague about it. Decide right now. When I start the dishwasher, I will do 15 minutes of my language app.
That's a great challenge. And as you map that out, I want to leave you with one final provocative thought to mull over.
Oh, I like the sound of this. Let's hear it.
We've talked extensively about how the never miss twice rule builds positive momentum for learning a new skill. But what if we applied this exact same logic to unlearning a bad habit?
Wait, really? How would that work?
Well, say you're trying to quit doom scrolling on your phone at night. If you cave on a Tuesday and scroll for 2 hours, that perfectionist trap kicks in. You feel like you've lost all your progress, so you don't even try to stop yourself on Wednesday.
Right. That what the hell effect again.
Exactly. But if slipping up once on a good habit doesn't ruin your life or your brain pathways, then slipping up once on a bad habit doesn't mean you're doomed either. How much power do you take back simply by ensuring you don't repeat the mistake a second day in a row?
That completely reframes failure. It's not about being flawless. It's just about what you choose to do the day after you mess up.
Exactly. Contain the slip-ups to a single day, and the momentum stays yours.
That is incredibly powerful. Well, thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Figure out your 15-minute stack for tomorrow, protect your momentum, and we will catch you next time.